The kiss lasted barely 3 seconds. 3 seconds that silenced the table behind her, froze the man in front of her, and turned a reckless joke into something that couldn't be undone. Emma Collins felt it immediately, the sudden shift in the air, the way the space around them tightened, as if the bar itself had leaned in to watch. Her lips had barely brushed his before she pulled back, already laughing, already ready to retreat and declare victory. But the man didn't laugh, didn't move, didn't even blink. He stood there, tall and impossibly solid, his body blocking the glow of the neon sign behind the bar. His shoulders were wide, his chest broad, his arms thick in a way that wasn't decorative. It was the kind of strength that didn't need to show off, the kind that warned instead. Emma's smile faltered. For a heartbeat, she wondered if she had crossed a line she couldn't see. "You okay?" she asked quickly, her voice lighter than she felt. His eyes finally lowered to her face. Gray, cold, focused. They didn't roam, they didn't soften. They locked onto her like she was something he needed to understand before reacting. "You did that on a dare," he said. It wasn't a question. Emma swallowed, suddenly aware of how close he was. She nodded. "Yeah, just a stupid game." The bar around them kept moving. Music pulsed. Someone laughed too loudly. A glass shattered somewhere behind them. He placed one large hand on the counter beside her, not touching her, but close enough that she felt trapped by his presence alone. His other hand stayed relaxed at his side. "You shouldn't let people push you into things," he said calmly. She lifted her chin. "I wanted to." That earned her something new, not a smile. Interest. He studied her for another long second, then stepped back, giving her space as if he'd never blocked it in the first place. "Be careful," he said. That was all. Emma didn't wait for more. She turned quickly and walked back to her friends, her heart beating faster than it had any right to. Behind her, Dominic Russo watched her go, and he didn't look away. An hour earlier, the night had felt harmless. The bar was crowded and loud, the kind of place where the air stayed warm no matter how cold it was outside. Laughter bounced off the walls, and every table was packed with people pretending tomorrow didn't exist. Emma leaned against the booth, her cheeks flushed, her ponytail slipping loose as she laughed. Her glass was half empty again. She hadn't meant to drink this much, but it had been one of those weeks, the kind that deserved forgetting. "To surviving another month," Chloe announced, raising her drink. They all cheered. Maya leaned closer to Emma, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Okay, truth or dare?" Emma groaned. "No, absolutely not." "Dare," Chloe said immediately. "You always say dare." Emma hesitated, then sighed. "Fine. Dare." Chloe's grin spread slowly. "I dare you to kiss the most serious guy in this bar." Emma followed her gaze. The man stood alone at the bar, his back straight, his posture calm in a way that didn't match the chaos around him. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't watching the TV overhead. He was simply there, tall, broad, still. He looked like he didn't belong in a place like this, and like no one would dare tell him that. Emma snorted. "Him? He looks like he might throw me out." "Exactly," Maya said. "That's why." Emma laughed, but her eyes stayed on him. Up close, she noticed details she hadn't from across the room. The fitted dark shirt stretched across his chest. His forearms were thick, veins visible when he shifted his weight. His jaw was sharp, clean, his hair neatly cut. He didn't look bored. He looked alert. "This is a terrible idea," Emma muttered. "But you're going to do it," Chloe said. Emma finished her drink in one long gulp, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "It's just a kiss." She slid out of the booth and made her way to the bar, her steps steady despite the buzz in her head. Up close, the man was even taller than she expected. She had to tilt her head back slightly to meet his eyes. She didn't give herself time to think. She leaned in and kissed him. The contact was brief, light, almost innocent. And yet, the moment it happened, Emma felt something change. Not sparks. Weight. Like gravity had shifted slightly off balance. She pulled away first, her breath catching just a little. "Sorry," she said automatically. "Dare." For a split second, she thought he might say something sharp, something angry. Instead, he just watched her, and that was somehow worse. She backed away, turning quickly and returning to her friends, forcing a laugh as if nothing strange had happened. But she felt it, the way his eyes stayed on her. Dominic Russo hadn't come to the bar for company. He was finishing a call when he noticed her laughter cut through the noise around him. It wasn't loud, it wasn't forced, it was real, and it didn't try to impress anyone. When she approached him, slightly unsteady but determined, he sensed the challenge before she ever touched him. The kiss caught him off guard, not because of the act, but because of the reaction it stirred. The warmth lingered. The softness surprised him. The way she met his eyes afterward, unashamed, curious, stayed with him long after she stepped away. He watched her for the rest of the night, the way she laughed with her whole body, the way she leaned into her friends when she listened, the way she checked her phone, frowned briefly, then smiled as if she'd decided whatever was there could wait. She wasn't calculating. That made her dangerous. Emma tried to forget the moment. She danced, she laughed, she drank water. She told herself she was imagining things. But every time she glanced toward the bar, she felt his presence before she saw him. At one point, she felt it behind her. "You okay?" he asked. She turned, startled, her heart jumping. He was close again. Close enough that she could smell something clean and subtle on him. Not cologne, just him. "Yes," she said. Yeah." He nodded, glancing toward her table. "Your friends look like trouble." She laughed. "They are." A pause. "Dominic," he said, extending his hand. She hesitated, then took it. His grip was firm but controlled, warm in a way that made her aware of her own pulse. "Emma." He repeated her name once, quietly. Something tightened in her chest. "I didn't take offense," he said. "I didn't think you did," she replied. "You looked calm." His mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. "I noticed you didn't ask for my number." She raised an eyebrow. "I noticed you didn't offer it." A beat. "Fair." Her phone buzzed in her hand. Chloe's name flashed across the screen. "We're leaving, now." Emma sighed. "I should go." He stepped back immediately. "Of course." She took a few steps, then stopped. "Sorry again," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "For what?" he asked. "For kissing you." "It wasn't a mistake," he said evenly. Her breath caught. Then she turned and walked away. Dominic watched her leave the bar, her laugh trailing behind her, her presence lingering long after she was gone. He didn't follow her. He didn't stop her, but he memorized her. And as the door closed behind her, one thought settled in his mind with dangerous clarity. This wasn't over, not even close. And Emma Collins had no idea who she had just kissed, or what he was about to do to make sure he saw her again. Emma Collins woke up and immediately regretted having lips. Not because the kiss had been bad, because it had been, too, easy to remember. Her head throbbed. Her mouth tasted like tequila and lime. She lay still, staring at the ceiling of her small Queens apartment, trying to replay the night in a clean order. Girls' night, the bronze lantern, Chloe chanting, "Do it!" Maya laughing so hard she almost fell off the booth. And then, him. Tall enough that Emma had to tip her chin up to meet his eyes. Broad enough to make the stool beside him look tiny. So serious he looked like he didn't know how to relax. The moment she kissed him had been quick, barely 3 seconds. But the way he looked at her after, that had lasted all night in her head. "It was a dare," she whispered, like saying it out loud would fix everything. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. 3 messages from Chloe, back to back. "Chloe, I have evidence." "Chloe, you were iconic." "Chloe, open the video." Emma groaned. "No." She opened it anyway. The video was shaky and loud. Emma watched herself walk toward the bar with a confident little swagger she didn't remember having. Then she leaned in and kissed him. She pulled back, smiling, acting like it meant nothing. But the man, him, didn't smile. He didn't flinch. He just watched her like her face belonged in his memory now. Emma paused the video on his expression and stared. Handsome, sharp, controlled, not friendly. The kind of man who didn't get teased by strangers in bars. So why hadn't he pushed her away? Why had he looked interested? Emma tossed the phone onto the bed and went to shower, trying to rinse the moment off her skin. It didn't wash away. At Hawthorne and Lane event planning, the office smelled like coffee and expensive candles the receptionist insisted were good for energy. Emma walked in with her tote bag and laptop and tried to look like a woman who hadn't kissed a stranger for entertainment. She made it 3 steps before Chloe appeared at her desk with a grin. "Good morning, kissing bandit," Chloe Bennett announced. Emma dropped her bag onto her chair. "Don't." "Oh, I'm doing it," Chloe said. "I'm doing it all day." Maya popped up from behind the desk divider like she'd been waiting. "I found him." Emma's stomach flipped. "You found him how?" Maya held up her phone. "I'm talented, and I was bored." On the screen was a grainy photo of the man from the bar standing outside a building. He was wearing a dark suit. 2 other men in suits were nearby, scanning the street like they were paid to. Emma frowned. "That looks like security." Chloe leaned in. "That looks like money." Maya zoomed in on the comments. "See? Someone wrote Mr. Russo." Emma's throat tightened slightly. "Russo?" Maya nodded, excited. "Dominic Russo. I found him in a charity gala list too. He donated, like, a lot." Chloe's smile turned wicked. "So you kissed a rich, scary man with bodyguards." "I kissed a stranger," Emma corrected. Chloe pointed at Emma's face. "You're blushing." Emma crossed her arms. "I'm not." Maya smirked. "It's okay. You're the main character now." Emma groaned and turned to her computer. "Can we please work?" Chloe sat on the edge of Emma's desk like she was settling in for a movie. "Fine. But if he texts you..." "He won't," Emma said quickly. Maya raised her eyebrows. "Confident?" Emma nodded. "Very." The universe must have heard her, because 30 minutes later her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Emma froze. The message was simple. Unknown. Emma Collins? Her heartbeat jumped straight into her throat. Chloe leaned over. "Who is it?" Emma whispered. "Unknown number." Maya's eyes widened. "Answer it." Emma stared at the screen like it might bite. "No." Chloe's grin sharpened. "Yes." Emma's thumb hovered, then she typed. "Emma." "Yes." "Who is this?" A pause. Then the reply. "Unknown." "Dominic." Emma's stomach dropped. Chloe slapped a hand over her mouth to keep from screaming. Maya pressed her palms to her cheeks like she was watching a finale. Emma stared at the message, then typed. "Emma, how did you get my number?" This time the response took longer. "Dominic." I asked. "If that was inappropriate, tell me and I'll delete it. I won't contact you again." Emma's breath caught. That wasn't pushy. That wasn't arrogant. It was respectful in a way that made it worse, because it meant he was careful. She typed, "Emma, why are you texting me?" His reply came a few seconds later. "Dominic, because I didn't like the idea of never seeing you again." Emma stared at the words until they almost blurred. Chloe mouthed, "Oh my God." Maya mouthed, "He's serious." Emma forced herself to breathe, then typed the only honest question. "Emma, what do you want?" "Dominic, one dinner. If you're not interested after that, it ends. No pressure." Her pulse raced. Chloe whispered, "Say yes." For the plot. Emma shot her a look, then typed, "Emma, where?" Chloe's eyes lit up like fireworks. "Dominic, tomorrow, 7, somewhere quiet." Emma hesitated, then typed, "Emma, I'll meet you. No car." A pause. "Dominic, understood. I'll send the address. Thank you, Emma. Thank you." That word stuck in her chest all day. The next evening, Emma changed outfits 3 times. Not because she wanted to impress him, because she didn't want to look like the girl who made drunk dares into life choices. She settled on a fitted black dress, a coat that made her look put together, and boots she could walk in. Chloe watched from the couch like a proud stage mom. "You're nervous." "I'm not," Emma lied, checking her lipstick once more. Maya handed her a glass of water. "Hydrate. Men like that are dehydrating." Emma laughed. "What does that mean?" Maya shrugged. "You'll find out." Chloe stood and adjusted Emma's collar. "Rules." Emma blinked. "Rules?" Chloe held up a finger. "If he gives you a bad vibe, you leave. No guilt." Emma nodded. Maya held up a finger. "If he's rude, you tell him you don't date men who act like happiness is embarrassing." Emma snorted. Chloe raised a second finger. "If he tries to buy your attention, stay unimpressed." Emma nodded again. Maya's smile softened. "But if he's actually kind, don't punish him for being intense." Emma paused, then grabbed her bag. "I'm leaving now before you both hypnotize me." The restaurant Dominic chose was elegant without being loud. No flashing signs, no packed crowd, no chaos. Just warm lighting, quiet music, and people speaking in low voices. The host greeted Emma politely, but when she gave her name, Emma Collins, the man's expression shifted just slightly, like the name meant something. "Miss Collins," he said. "Right this way." Emma followed him toward the back. She noticed two men near the entrance, dark suits, not eating, not smiling, watching the room. Her pulse ticked up. "Security," she told herself. "It's a fancy place. Calm down." Then she saw Dominic. He stood when she approached. In the calmer light, he looked even bigger than he had in the bar. His suit fit perfectly across shoulders that seemed too wide for normal life. His face was controlled, serious, but his eyes softened when they landed on her. "Emma," he said. Hearing her name from his mouth made her stomach flutter. "Dominic," she replied, keeping her voice steady. He pulled out her chair, careful and polite, then sat across from her. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Emma broke first. "This place is nice." Dominic nodded. "Quiet." "You like quiet?" she asked. "I like hearing what matters," he replied. Her throat tightened. She cleared it. "Okay, real question." Dominic's gaze stayed steady. "Ask." Emma inhaled. "Why did you text me?" He didn't pretend he didn't understand. "Because I kept thinking about you," he said simply. "And I don't like unfinished things." Emma tried to laugh it off. It was a dare. Dominic's eyes narrowed slightly. Not angry, just focused. Was it only a dare? Emma opened her mouth, then closed it, because she wasn't sure. The waiter came for drink orders. Emma asked for sparkling water. Dominic ordered water too. Emma raised an eyebrow. "No wine." "I don't like being less aware," Dominic said. "Of what?" Emma asked lightly. "Someone stealing your dessert?" His mouth twitched. "Possibly." She laughed, then stopped, realizing he wasn't entirely joking. Emma leaned forward a little. "People here seem to know you." "They do," Dominic said, calm. "And those men at the entrance?" she asked softly. Dominic glanced that way for half a second, then back to her. "They're here to keep the night calm." Emma's heartbeat picked up. "Because of you?" Dominic's gaze held hers. "Because I prefer control." Emma swallowed. "What do you do, Dominic?" He paused, choosing his words. "I run businesses," he said. "That's vague," Emma replied. Dominic nodded once. "Yes." Emma leaned in slightly. "I don't like vague." His eyes didn't move. "Then ask what you're really asking." Emma's breath caught. She lowered her voice. "Are you dangerous?" Dominic's face stayed calm, but his gaze sharpened. "I can be," he admitted. Emma's stomach tightened. Then he added quietly, "But not with you." That line hit harder than it should have. Emma tried to steady herself. "You don't even know me." "That's why I asked you here," Dominic said. Her voice softened without permission. "To study me?" "To understand why you did it," he said. "Why I kissed you," Emma whispered. "Yes." Emma held his gaze, then said the truth before she could stop herself. Because I wasn't scared, she admitted. Dominic went still. Emma's cheeks warmed. I was curious. The air between them tightened again, charged and quiet. Dinner continued, but something had shifted. Dominic asked real questions about her life, her work, her values. Emma answered honestly, surprised by how safe it felt to be listened to like she mattered. When they stepped outside afterward, the cold air hit Emma's cheeks, but her body still felt warm. Dominic stopped under a streetlight and looked at her. Now I ask if I can kiss you again, he said. Emma's heart jumped. This wasn't a dare. This was a choice. She swallowed. Why? Because I've been thinking about it since you walked away. Dominic replied. Emma nodded before she overthought it. Dominic stepped closer slowly, lifting his hand to her cheek, but stopping just short, waiting. Yes, Emma whispered. His palm cupped her face gently, warm, careful. Then he kissed her, slow, controlled, deep enough to make her knees soften. When he pulled back, he didn't let go right away. You're shaking, he murmured. I'm not, Emma whispered automatically. Dominic's gaze stayed on hers. You are. Emma swallowed. So are you. Dominic went still. For a second, he looked almost exposed. Then he exhaled slowly. Yes, he admitted. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Dominic checked it, and Emma saw his jaw tighten, his eyes turning colder. Everything okay? She asked softly. Dominic slid the phone away. Yes. Emma didn't believe him. Dominic's gaze flicked down the street, quick, sharp, then returned to her. I want to see you again, he said. When? Emma asked. A pause. Soon, Dominic answered. Emma frowned. Vague again. Dominic reached into his jacket and handed her a plain card. No logo, no title, just his name and a number. Dominic Russo. Emma stared at it. What are you, Dominic? Dominic's eyes held hers, serious. If I tell you, he said quietly, will you let me finish before you decide what you think of me? Emma's heart pounded. What truth? She whispered. Dominic's gaze slid past her shoulder, scanning the street again. Then he looked back at her, voice low. The man you kissed in that bar, he said, doesn't get to live a simple life. Emma's throat went dry. Before she could ask what that meant, a black car rolled slowly to the curb across from them, stopping like it had been waiting. The passenger window lowered halfway. A man in a suit looked out, eyes flicking to Emma, then to Dominic. Dominic didn't move, but the air changed. The man spoke, respectful but urgent. Mr. Russo, we need a word. Dominic's hand slid behind Emma without touching her, a protective shield made of pure presence. He didn't look away from Emma when he answered. 1 minute, Dominic said calmly. Then his gaze dropped to her, intense and steady. This, he murmured, is exactly what I was trying to warn you about. Emma clutched the card, heart racing, because suddenly she wasn't just curious anymore. She was standing close to a world that clearly knew Dominic Russo's name, and now it had noticed hers too. Emma didn't move. She stood under the streetlight with Dominic's card clenched in her fingers, her heart pounding so hard it felt loud. Across the street, the black car idled like it belonged there. The passenger window was still down halfway, and the man inside waited with the patient confidence of someone used to being obeyed. Emma looked up at Dominic. He looked calm. Too calm, like this wasn't a surprise, just an interruption. This is exactly what I was trying to warn you about, Dominic had said. Emma's mouth went dry. Warn me about what? Dominic didn't answer immediately. His gaze flicked to the car, then back to her. He kept his voice low, careful. About my life touching yours, he said. Emma swallowed. Are they following you? They're waiting, Dominic corrected. That word didn't help. Waiting sounded planned. Emma's grip tightened around the card. Who are they? Dominic's jaw tightened slightly, and for the first time Emma saw hesitation in him, like he was deciding how much truth she could handle without running. Then he did something that surprised her. He reached out, not fast, not forceful, and gently took her wrist, just enough to guide her a few steps away from the street light and closer to the building wall. It wasn't a dramatic pull. It was controlled, quiet, protective. He let go immediately once they were out of the most obvious view. "You can leave right now," Dominic said. "No questions, no explanations. I'll understand." Emma's eyebrows lifted. "You're giving me an exit?" "Yes," he said simply. Emma stared at him. "Why?" Dominic's gaze held hers. "Because if you stay, it has to be your choice." Her pulse jumped. She hated that those words made her feel respected instead of scared. Emma glanced at the car again. The man inside didn't look angry. He looked professional. Emma looked back at Dominic. "Are you in trouble?" Dominic's eyes narrowed slightly. "No." "Then why do you look like you're deciding whether to lie to me?" She pressed. Dominic exhaled slowly through his nose. "I don't want you to be afraid of me," he said. Emma's voice came out softer than she intended. "I'm not afraid of you." Dominic went still, like those words landed somewhere deep. But then his gaze sharpened again. "You should be cautious." Emma swallowed. "Cautious isn't the same as afraid." Dominic watched her for a long beat, then nodded once like he accepted her correction. The man in the car spoke again, more urgent this time. "Mr. Russo, please." Dominic's eyes stayed on Emma as he answered, calm and final. "I said 1 minute." The window rolled up halfway, as if that was agreement. Emma's chest rose with a shaky breath. "They call you Mr. Russo." Dominic's mouth curved faintly, humorless. "Yes, so Dominic Russo is your real name," she said. "It is." Emma looked down at the card in her hand, then back up. "And you run businesses," she said, repeating his vague answer from dinner with a slight edge. Dominic's eyes softened, just a little. "Yes." Emma held his gaze. "That's still vague." Dominic leaned closer, lowering his voice until it felt like he was speaking only to her, even with the car nearby. "Emma," he said quietly, "if I tell you too much too soon, you'll either panic or feel like you have to be brave. I don't want either." Her throat tightened. "Then what do you want?" Dominic's gaze dropped to her mouth for a split second, then lifted back to her eyes. "I want to take you home," he said. "Safely. And then I want to see you again when you've had time to think." Emma's heart skipped. She should have said no. She should have stepped back. Instead, she found herself asking the question that mattered. "Will you?" she whispered. "See me again?" Dominic's expression shifted. Something softer, something almost relieved. "Yes," he said. "If you allow it." Emma stared at him, caught between common sense and the fact that his control felt like a shelter. Dominic glanced toward the car, then back to her. "I have to speak with them," he said, "but I'm not leaving you alone out here." Emma's brows lifted. "So what? Your bodyguards will escort me." Dominic's mouth twitched. "They aren't my bodyguards." That sentence landed wrong. Emma's stomach tightened. "Then what are they?" Dominic didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. He typed one message, quick and precise, and slid the phone back in his pocket. Then he looked at her again. "Give me 30 seconds, he said. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Dominic walked across the street toward the car with the same steady pace he'd walked into the restaurant with. Calm, controlled, like the night belonged to him. Emma watched him go, and the strangest thought crossed her mind. He didn't look like a man who feared anyone. He looked like a man people feared. That should have sent her running. Instead, it made her curious in a way that felt dangerous. Chloe's voice echoed in her memory. "For the plot." Emma almost laughed at herself. Then her phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Chloe. Did you die? Maya. Send details or we're calling the FBI." Emma stared at the screen, then looked back at Dominic, who was now leaning slightly into the passenger window of the black car, speaking quietly. His face stayed calm, but his jaw looked tighter, like whatever he was saying mattered. Emma didn't like that she wanted to know every word. 30 seconds turned into a minute. Emma paced 2 small steps, then stopped. She forced herself to breathe slowly, to stay grounded. When Dominic finally stepped back from the car, the passenger window rolled up fully. The car didn't speed away. It stayed there, idling, like it wasn't finished with him. Dominic walked back toward Emma. His eyes found hers immediately. "You're still here," he said. Emma lifted her chin. "I said I wasn't afraid." Dominic's gaze warmed briefly, like he was fighting a smile. "You're stubborn," he said. "Maybe," Emma replied. "Or maybe I just don't like unanswered questions." Dominic stopped close enough that she could feel the heat of him again. He lowered his voice. "Then here's an answer." Emma's breath caught. "I won't let anything happen to you," he said. The way he said it didn't sound like a dramatic promise. It sounded like a rule. Emma swallowed. "You can't guarantee that." Dominic's gaze held hers. "I can guarantee what I control." Emma stared at him. "And what do you control, Dominic?" For a moment she thought he might shut down. Instead he tilted his head slightly, studying her like he was choosing his honesty again. "I control a lot," he said. Emma felt a shiver run through her. Not fear, not exactly. More like the thrill of standing close to something powerful. Dominic's phone buzzed again. He didn't check it this time. Emma looked at the car. "Are they going to keep waiting there?" Dominic's gaze followed hers for half a second. "Not after I leave. And you're leaving with me," Emma said, surprising herself. Dominic looked back at her, eyes steady. "Only if you want me to." Emma hesitated. The sensible part of her screamed that this was insane. But the other part, the part that felt seen, wanted, chosen, was louder. "I want to go home," Emma said finally. Dominic nodded once. "Okay." Emma's eyes narrowed. "How?" Dominic's mouth curved faintly. "Walking." Emma blinked. "Walking?" "You live 3 blocks from here," he said calmly. Emma stared at him. "How do you know where I live?" The question came out sharper than she intended. Dominic didn't flinch. "Because I needed to know I could get you home safely." Emma's pulse spiked. "Dominic, that's—" He raised one hand slightly, not to silence her, but to slow the moment down. "I know it sounds invasive," he said. "I'm not proud of it. But I wasn't going to let you step into the street alone after that car pulled up." Emma's throat tightened. His honesty didn't erase the fact that it was intense, but it also didn't feel like a game. Emma took a breath. "You can't keep doing things without telling me." Dominic's gaze stayed steady. "You're right." Emma blinked, surprised. Dominic continued quieter. "So tell me what you need." Emma searched his face, looking for arrogance, for irritation, for manipulation. She found none. Just control. And something else under it. Patience. Emma swallowed. "I need clarity. I need to know what I'm stepping into." Dominic nodded once. "Fair." Emma's voice softened despite herself. "And I need to know if you're interested in me, or in the idea of me." Dominic's eyes held hers. "I'm interested in you," he said. Emma's breath caught. Dominic stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The idea of you doesn't kiss back. The idea of you doesn't look at me like I'm human." Emma's chest tightened. She tried to steady herself with humor. "I don't know you well enough to know if you're human." Dominic's mouth twitched. "That's why I want another dinner." Emma blinked. "Another?" "Yes," Dominic said. "If you'll let me." Emma hesitated, then asked, "What happens at this next dinner?" Dominic's gaze sharpened slightly. "I tell you the truth." Emma's pulse jumped. "All of it?" "Enough," Dominic said. Emma nodded slowly, trying not to look as affected as she felt. "Okay." Dominic's eyes softened. "Okay?" Emma met his gaze. "Okay." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Dominic lifted his hand, stopping just short of her cheek again, waiting. Emma whispered, "You can." His palm brushed her cheek, gentle. His thumb traced the edge of her jaw like he was memorizing her again. Then he kissed her, Not as deep as before. Not as hungry. More like a promise. When he pulled back, he stayed close, voice low. "I don't want to rush you," he said. Emma's lips parted, her breath unsteady. "You're not rushing me." Dominic's eyes flicked to her mouth. "That's the problem." Emma swallowed, trying to regain control. "What problem?" Dominic's voice dropped even lower. "The more time I spend with you, the less control I want." Emma's stomach fluttered hard. She forced a small smile. "That sounds like your personal issue." Dominic's mouth curved, brief amusement. "It is." Emma's phone buzzed again. Chloe. Emma ignored it. Dominic noticed, and his gaze warmed slightly. "Good choice." Emma laughed softly. "Don't get used to it." Dominic's smile lingered a fraction longer this time, and it made him even more dangerous. They walked. Dominic stayed on the street side of the sidewalk, close enough that Emma could feel his presence without feeling crowded. He didn't grab her hand. He didn't touch her waist. He just walked beside her like he belonged there. Emma glanced up at him. "So, you really don't drink?" "I drink," Dominic said. "Just not when I'm with someone I'm trying to be careful with." Emma's cheeks warmed. "Be careful with me?" Dominic looked down at her. "Yes." Emma forced herself to breathe. "What does careful look like to you?" Dominic's gaze stayed steady. "Not lying, not rushing, not pretending I'm harmless." Emma swallowed. "You're not harmless." Dominic's mouth twitched. "No." They reached her building. Emma stopped at the entrance, keys in hand, suddenly aware of how intimate it felt to be here with him. At her door, in her world, where nothing was guarded. Dominic didn't step closer. He kept a respectful distance. "I'll go," he said. Emma blinked. "That's it?" Dominic's eyes held hers. "If I step inside, I won't want to leave." Emma's breath caught. She tried to tease him. "You're very dramatic for a man who hates drama." Dominic's mouth curved faintly. "I'm honest." Emma stared at him, feeling heat rise under her skin. Then she asked quietly, "When do I see you again?" Dominic's gaze sharpened. "Tomorrow." Emma's pulse jumped. "Where?" Dominic reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He typed quickly, then held it out so she could see the screen. A message draft, not sent yet. "Dominic. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., my home. I'll answer everything. If you want to leave at any moment, you leave. No pressure." Emma stared at the words. His home. Not a restaurant, not a public place, a private space. The sensible part of her whispered, "This is too fast." The other part whispered, "This is exactly where the truth lives." Emma looked up at Dominic. "Your home?" Dominic's expression stayed calm, but his eyes were intense. "Yes," he said, "because if I tell you the truth in public, it won't stay private." Emma swallowed hard. Then she nodded once. "Okay," she said quietly. Dominic didn't smile like he'd won. He looked like he'd been given something fragile and he intended to protect it. He hit send. Emma's phone buzzed immediately with the same message. Dominic slid his phone away, gaze locked on hers. "Good night, Emma," he said, voice low. Emma's lips parted. "Good night." Dominic hesitated, then added softly, "Lock your door." Emma's stomach tightened. "Why?" Dominic's eyes flicked briefly down the street, sharp, alert, then returned to her. "Because I don't like leaving anything to chance," he said. Emma's heart raced. Dominic stepped back, giving her space. But before he turned away, he looked at her one last time. "And Emma?" "Yes," she whispered. His voice dropped, calm but warning. "If you come tomorrow, your life won't feel simple anymore." Emma's breath caught. Dominic turned and walked away into the night, controlled and steady. Emma stood frozen at her doorway, keys in hand, the cold air on her cheeks, her heart racing like she'd done something irreversible. Because she knew she was going to go, and she also knew the real story was about to begin. Emma didn't sleep much that night. She locked her door like Dominic had told her to, then stood there for a long moment with her hand still on the knob. listening to the quiet of her apartment like it might answer her questions. Nothing happened. No footsteps in the hall. No mysterious sounds. No reason for her heart to beat the way it did. And yet, when she finally lay down, her mind refused to slow. Tomorrow, 7, his home. She stared at the ceiling, replaying the way he'd said it, not inviting, not demanding, simply stating a fact and leaving the choice in her hands. That was the part she couldn't ignore. Dominic never pushed. He waited. And somehow that made everything feel heavier. The next day dragged. Emma went through her routine on autopilot. She worked, smiled, answered emails, walked through a venue with a client who complained about chair colors. She nodded and took notes while her mind stayed somewhere else. Chloe noticed. "You're quiet," Chloe said over lunch. Emma poked at her salad. "Am I?" "Yes," Maya added. "Quiet like someone who's about to walk into a very interesting mistake." Emma shot her a look. "Encouraging." Chloe leaned closer. "Are you really going to his house?" Emma hesitated. "Yes." Maya's eyes widened. "Wow." Chloe studied Emma's face carefully. "Are you scared?" Emma thought about it. "No," she said slowly. "I'm aware." Chloe nodded. "That's different." Maya smirked. "That's worse." Emma laughed despite herself, but the knot in her chest didn't loosen. By the time she got home, the sky was already dark. She stood in front of her closet longer than she should have, not trying to look seductive, not trying to impress. She chose comfort with intention, soft fabric, clean lines, something that felt like her. If Dominic was going to tell her the truth, she wanted to hear it as herself, not as a performance. At 6:45, her phone buzzed. "Dominic." "I'm downstairs." Her pulse jumped. Downstairs. Not outside. Not honking. Downstairs. Emma took one last look in the mirror, then grabbed her coat and headed out. Dominic stood by a black SUV at the curb, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed but alert. He looked different tonight, not dressed for a restaurant, not dressed to impress. Comfortable, confident, like this was his territory. His eyes found her immediately. "Emma," he said, voice low. She walked toward him. "Dominic." He opened the door for her, waited until she was seated, then closed it gently before walking around to the driver's side. He was driving himself. That surprised her. The ride was quiet, but not awkward. Streetlights passed in steady rhythm as they moved deeper into the city, then slowly out of it. Emma watched the scenery change. Less traffic, wider streets, quieter neighborhoods. "Where are we going?" she asked. Dominic kept his eyes on the road. "Brooklyn Heights." Emma nodded. "Nice area." "Yes." That was all. The building he pulled up to wasn't flashy. No gates, no guards at the door. Just a renovated brownstone with warm lights glowing behind tall windows. Dominic parked and turned off the engine. He looked at her before getting out. "You can still change your mind." Emma met his gaze. "I know." He nodded, then stepped out and opened her door. Inside, the space felt lived in. Not cold, not intimidating. Clean lines, neutral colors, soft lighting, art on the walls that looked chosen, not bought in bulk. A quiet strength to the place, like the man who lived there. Emma took it in slowly. "This is not what I expected," she admitted. Dominic closed the door behind them. "What did you expect?" "I don't know," she said honestly. "Something darker." Dominic's mouth curved faintly. "I spend enough time in the dark outside of here." That sentence landed heavier than it sounded. He gestured toward the living room. "Can I get you something? Water? Tea?" "Water's fine," Emma said. He handed her a glass, then leaned against the counter, giving her space again. Emma took a sip, then set the glass down carefully. "Okay," she said, exhaling. "You said you'd tell me the truth." Dominic nodded. "I did." Emma's heart started racing. "So tell me." Dominic didn't rush. He crossed the room slowly and sat across from her, elbows resting loosely on his knees. He looked at her like he was measuring honesty, not control. "My life isn't legal in the way most people expect," he said. Emma held her breath. "I run organizations that exist in the gray," Dominic continued. "Some of them are legitimate. Some of them are not." Emma swallowed. "You're a criminal." Dominic's gaze stayed steady. "I am a businessman who grew up in a world where the rules were different." "That's still a yes," she said quietly. "Yes," Dominic agreed. Emma leaned back slightly, processing. "And the men in the car?" "People who work for me," he said. "People who make sure problems don't reach my door." Her pulse quickened. "And violence?" Dominic didn't dodge it. "I don't enjoy it. I avoid it when possible. I don't bring it home." Emma searched his face for excuses, for lies. She found none. "And me?" she asked softly. "Where do I fit in that world?" Dominic's eyes softened. "You don't." That surprised her. "You don't want me to?" "No," he said firmly. "I want you far away from it." Emma's voice wavered. "Then why involve me at all?" Dominic exhaled slowly. "Because I noticed you, and once I did, pretending I didn't would have been dishonest." Emma hugged her arms lightly around herself. "So this us is a mistake." Dominic shook his head. "It's a risk." She met his gaze. "There's a difference." "Yes," he agreed, "and I'm willing to take it, but only if you are." Emma stood and walked toward the window, staring out at the quiet street below. "This is a lot," she said. "I know." She turned back to him. "Why me, Dominic?" He rose slowly, stopping a few feet away from her. "Because you don't want anything from me. Because you look at me like I'm not just what I do. Because you kissed me without trying to take anything." Emma's chest tightened. "And because," he added quietly, "you make me want something different." Silence stretched between them. Emma laughed softly, more breath than sound. "You're not exactly the safe choice." Dominic's mouth curved faintly. "No." She looked at him, really looked at him, at the control, the restraint, the way he never stepped closer without permission. "You don't act like someone who takes what he wants," she said. "I don't," Dominic replied. "I choose." Emma swallowed. "And you're choosing me." "Yes." Her heart hammered. "What happens if this goes badly?" Dominic's gaze didn't waver. "Then I walk away." "That easily?" she asked. "No," he said honestly, "but completely." Emma nodded slowly. She stepped closer, stopping just short of him. "I need one promise." "Name it," Dominic said. "No lies," she said. "If I ask, you answer." Dominic didn't hesitate. "Agreed." Emma searched his eyes one last time. Then she reached out and took his hand, not because she was sure, because she wasn't. Dominic's fingers tightened around hers, gentle but firm, like he understood the weight of that choice. "Okay," Emma said quietly. Dominic's breath hitched, just slightly. "Okay," he repeated. "I'll stay," she said. "For now." Dominic lifted her hand and pressed a slow kiss to her knuckles. "Thank you," he murmured. The intimacy of the gesture sent a shiver through her. Dominic looked at her, eyes dark. "May I kiss you?" Emma nodded. This kiss was different. Slower, deeper, more honest. No rush, no hunger that overwhelmed. Just connection. His hand warm at her waist, hers resting lightly against his chest, feeling the steady strength beneath. When they pulled apart, Emma rested her forehead against his. "This doesn't feel dangerous," she whispered. Dominic's voice was low. "That's what worries me." Emma smiled faintly. "You're allowed to want something good." Dominic didn't answer right away. Instead, he held her a second longer than necessary, like he was memorizing the feeling. Then, somewhere in the apartment, a phone buzzed. Dominic stiffened, not dramatically, just enough for Emma to feel it. He pulled back slightly, jaw tightening. "Is that important?" she asked. Dominic glanced toward the sound, then back to her. "Yes," he said, "and inconvenient." Emma's pulse picked up. Does it change anything? Dominic studied her face, then shook his head. Not tonight, he said. But soon. Emma frowned. Soon what? Dominic's gaze turned serious. Soon, he said. Someone will notice I'm distracted. Emma's stomach tightened. And when they do? She asked. Dominic lifted his hand, brushing her cheek gently. They'll want to know why, he said. Emma held his gaze, heart racing. And what will you tell them? Dominic's eyes darkened, steady and certain. That you matter, he said. The words settled heavily between them. Not romantic, protective. And for the first time since she met him, Emma realized the truth wasn't just that Dominic lived a dangerous life. It was that caring about her might be the most dangerous thing he'd done yet. Emma woke up the next morning with the quiet certainty that something in her life had shifted. Not in a dramatic, world-ending way. In a subtle, irreversible one. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the night before. Not just Dominic's words, but the way he had said them. Calm. Honest. Unrushed. Like he wasn't trying to convince her of anything, only offering the truth and letting her decide what to do with it. That had never happened to her before. Usually, men tried to sell themselves. Dominic didn't sell. He revealed. Her phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. Dominic. Good morning. Emma smiled before she could stop herself. She stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. Emma. You're awake early. The reply came quickly. Dominic. I'm always awake early. She imagined him already dressed, already controlled, already 10 steps ahead of the day. The image made her feel strangely warm instead of intimidated. Emma. Did you sleep? There was a pause this time. Dominic. Better than usual. That one line tightened something in her chest. Emma rolled onto her side, hugging her pillow lightly. Emma. That's good. She set the phone down and stared at it like it might speak again. It didn't. But the quiet felt comfortable. Over the next few days, something unexpected happened. They didn't rush. Dominic didn't flutter with messages. He didn't demand time. He didn't show up unannounced. He texted once in the morning, once at night. Sometimes just a single sentence. Sometimes a question that made her think. Did you eat? What made you laugh today? Are you tired? No flirting disguised as interest, just attention. Emma found herself looking forward to those messages more than she wanted to admit. At work, Chloe noticed immediately. You're smiling at your phone, Chloe said, narrowing her eyes. Emma looked up too quickly. I am not. You absolutely are, Maya added. And it's not your mother. Emma sighed. It's Dominic. Both women froze. Chloe's grin spread slowly. Oh, this is serious. Emma frowned. How do you know? Because when you talk about him, you don't joke, Chloe said. You soften. Emma didn't argue. That scared her a little. Their next dinner wasn't at a restaurant. It was at Dominic's place again. This time, Emma arrived without the knot in her stomach. Not because she trusted everything about him, but because she trusted the way he treated her. Dominic opened the door, dressed simply, sleeves rolled up, looking more like a man at home than a man in control. You're early, he said. Emma smiled. You don't seem like someone who minds. I don't, he admitted, stepping aside to let her in. Dinner was simple. No staff, no spectacle. Dominic cooked. That alone surprised her. You cook? She asked, watching him move around the kitchen with quiet efficiency. Yes, he said. It keeps my hands busy. And your mind? She asked. He glanced at her. Sometimes. They ate at the kitchen counter, close but not touching, talking about ordinary things, her work, a client who drove her insane, a story about Maya getting lost in Brooklyn for 3 hours. Dominic listened like every detail mattered. When Emma laughed, he watched her like it was something rare. At one point, she noticed his phone face down on the counter. It buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Emma hesitated. You don't have to ignore that because of me. Dominic's gaze stayed on hers. I want to. That sentence landed softly, but deeply. As the evening settled, they moved to the couch. This time, Dominic sat close enough that their shoulders brushed. Emma felt the warmth of him immediately. Steady, grounding. She turned her head slightly. "Can I ask you something?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "What happens when people in your world get attached?" she asked carefully. Dominic exhaled slowly. "They become vulnerable." Emma nodded. "And you?" He looked at her. "I don't get attached." The honesty stung a little, until he continued. "Until now." Emma's breath caught. Dominic turned toward her fully. "This is new for me, Emma, and I don't pretend it isn't." She swallowed. "Does that scare you?" "Yes," he said simply. That answer made her trust him more than reassurance ever could. She shifted closer, resting her hand lightly on his forearm. Dominic went still, not pulling away, not leaning in, just feeling it. "I don't want to be a weakness," Emma said quietly. Dominic's gaze sharpened, not with anger, but conviction. "You're not," he said. "You're a reason." Her chest tightened. "A reason for what?" she asked. "For change," Dominic replied. Emma searched his face. "That's a big word." He nodded. "I don't use it lightly." Silence settled between them, heavy but calm. Then Dominic did something she didn't expect. He leaned back slightly and said, "There are parts of my life I'm already stepping away from." Emma blinked. "Because of me?" "Because I don't want to be the man who brings chaos to your door," he said. Emma's voice softened. "You don't have to rearrange your life for me." Dominic met her gaze steadily. "I want to." That scared her more than anything else he'd said. "Dominic," she whispered, "people don't usually change for someone they just met." His eyes didn't move. "I didn't just meet you." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said quietly, "that when you kissed me, you reminded me of who I was before everything else took over." Emma's throat tightened. She leaned into him without thinking, resting her head against his shoulder. Dominic's arm came around her slowly, deliberately, like he was asking permission even after she'd already chosen. She sighed softly, melting into the contact. This felt intimate, not heated, not reckless, just right. Later, when he walked her to the door, Emma hesitated. "I don't want to rush," she said. Dominic nodded. "Neither do I. But," she added, lifting her gaze, "I don't want to pretend this isn't real either." Dominic's thumb brushed her hand gently. "I'm not pretending." Emma smiled faintly. "Good." She leaned in and kissed him. Soft, lingering, sure. Dominic responded with restraint that somehow made it more intense, like he was choosing every movement carefully. When they pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers. "You matter to me," he said quietly. Emma swallowed. "I know." He looked at her, surprised. "You do?" She nodded. "Because you show it. Not with words. With space. With honesty." Dominic exhaled slowly, like he hadn't realized how badly he needed to hear that. As Emma stepped into the hallway, she turned back. "Dominic?" "Yes." "What happens next?" she asked. He met her gaze, serious but calm. "Next," he said, "I make sure the life I'm building has room for you." Emma's heart raced. "And if it doesn't?" she asked. Dominic's voice was steady. "Then I build a different one." The door closed softly behind her. Emma leaned against it, heart pounding, not with fear, but with the realization that this was no longer a flirtation. It was a choice. And Dominic Russo was already choosing her in ways that would soon force the rest of his world to react. She just didn't know how loudly yet. Emma tried to act normal for the next 2 days. She answered emails. She smiled at clients. She listened to Chloe complain about a bridesmaid who wanted winter magic in Florida. She even laughed when Maya sent a meme that said, "When the mysterious man you kissed turns out to be your future husband." But normal didn't fit anymore. Because Dominic Russo had said, "Then I build a different one." And Emma couldn't stop hearing it. Not because it sounded romantic, because it sounded like a decision already in motion. The third morning after that, her phone buzzed while she was walking into the office. Dominic, can I see you tonight? Emma stared at the message, her stomach fluttering. Emma. Yes. Are you okay? A pause. Dominic. I'm fine. I just need you close. Those 7 words made her stop walking. Need you close. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't needy. It was direct, grounded, and somehow more intense than anything he could have said in a softer tone. Emma swallowed, then typed. Emma. Where? Dominic. Your choice. I'll come to you, or you come here. Emma stared at the screen. 2 choices, always choices with him. She typed. Emma. Come to me. I want to show you my world for once. The reply came quickly. Dominic. I'd like that. Emma slipped her phone into her pocket, heart thudding. She walked into the office and Chloe immediately narrowed her eyes. You're glowing, Chloe said. Emma groaned. I am not. Maya appeared beside Chloe like a matching detective. You are. It's disgusting. What happened? Emma tried to keep her face steady. Dominic is coming to my apartment tonight. Chloe froze. He's entering the poor people zone. Emma snorted. Queens is not the poor people zone. Maya gasped dramatically. Wait, your apartment? Yes. Chloe leaned closer, lowering her voice. Okay, ground rules. If he tries to redecorate, you stop him. Emma laughed. Why would he redecorate? Maya pointed at her with full confidence. Because men like that don't walk into a small apartment and not mentally replace every piece of furniture. Emma rolled her eyes. He's not like that. Chloe smirked. You say that now. Emma tried to focus on work after that. She really did. But once Dominic was on his way to her place, her mind couldn't stop imagining what it would look like. Dominic in her space, Dominic in her kitchen, Dominic sitting on her couch like he belonged there. That last part was what scared her, because she wanted him to belong there. At 6:50, Emma lit the one candle she owned that wasn't embarrassing. At 6:55, she regretted the candle because it smelled like vanilla ambition. At 7 sharp, there was a knock. Not loud, not hesitant, just certain. Emma took a breath, opened the door, and there he was. Dominic stood in the hallway like he didn't belong in it. Too big for the narrow space, too calm for the cheap lighting, too controlled for the chaos of her building. He wore a dark sweater instead of a suit, sleeves pushed up, his watch catching the light. His eyes found hers immediately. Emma, he said. Hearing her name in her doorway made her chest tighten. Dominic, she replied, stepping aside. Come in. He didn't rush inside. He paused at the threshold like he was respecting the invisible line between his world and hers. Then he entered. He looked around slowly, not judging, observing. Emma's apartment was small but warm. A few framed photos, a bookshelf with romance novels and cookbooks, a bowl of keys by the door, a throw blanket on the couch that had seen better days. Dominic's gaze lingered on the photos. Emma immediately felt self-conscious. It's not much, she said. Dominic looked at her. It's yours. That simple sentence settled her nerves more than any compliment about the decor could have. Emma tried to lighten the mood. Do you want water? Tea? I don't have expensive stuff like at your place. Dominic's mouth curved faintly. Tea is fine. Emma moved to the kitchen, suddenly aware of how domestic this felt. She filled the kettle, then glanced over her shoulder. Dominic stood near her bookshelf, staring at a row of novels. You read these? He asked. Emma's cheeks warmed. Yes. Dominic picked one up carefully, reading the back cover like it was a serious document. Emma watched him, amused. Don't judge me. Dominic looked up. I'm not judging. He paused, then added, I'm learning. Emma blinked. Learning what? What you like, he said simply. Emma's throat tightened. She turned back to the kettle like it was suddenly urgent. When the tea was ready, they sat on her couch, close enough that Emma could feel the heat of him beside her. Dominic held the mug like he wasn't used to holding something small. Emma tried not to stare at his hands. It was hard not to. "So," Emma said, forcing herself to sound casual, "how does it feel to be in a normal apartment?" Dominic glanced around again. "It feels quiet." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Your place is quiet too." Dominic looked at her. "Not like this." "What's the difference?" she asked. Dominic's gaze held hers. "This quiet feels safe." Emma swallowed. She wasn't sure what to say to that, so she asked the question that had been sitting in her chest since his text that morning. "You said you needed me close," she said softly. "Why?" Dominic didn't look away. "I have a decision to finalize," he said. Emma's pulse jumped. "About what?" Dominic's jaw tightened slightly. "About stepping away from parts of my life." Emma's breath caught. "Dominic?" He reached out, not touching her yet, just resting his hand on the couch behind her like he wanted to be near without trapping her. "I told you I'd build a different life," he said. "I meant it." Emma's heart raced. "That's huge." "Yes," Dominic agreed. "And it's not simple." Emma tried to keep her voice steady. "Are you doing this because you think you have to?" Dominic's eyes sharpened. "No." "Then why?" she pressed. Dominic's gaze softened in a way that made her chest ache. "Because when I'm with you," he said quietly, "I remember what peace feels like." Emma's throat tightened. She reached for humor like a lifeline. "So I'm your therapist now?" Dominic's mouth twitched. "No." Emma tilted her head. "Then what am I?" Dominic looked at her for a long moment, like he was choosing words that could change everything. "You're the only place I don't feel divided," he said. Emma's breath caught, her heart thudding hard. She didn't answer right away. She scooted closer, letting her shoulder brush his. Dominic's body went still for half a second. Then he relaxed into it like it was allowed. Emma whispered, "That's a lot." Dominic's voice was low. "I know." Emma looked down at her hands. "And what happens after you step away?" Dominic's gaze held hers. "I become a man with fewer enemies." Emma stiffened. "Enemies?" Dominic's tone stayed calm. "Not the kind you're imagining. I'm not in the middle of a war, Emma." She exhaled, relieved but still tense. Dominic continued softer. "But I am watched. And when I change my behavior, people ask why." Emma's stomach tightened. "Because of me." Dominic didn't deny it. "Yes." Emma's voice wavered. "I don't want to be a target." Dominic's eyes darkened slightly, steady and protective. "You won't be." Emma swallowed. "You can't control everything." Dominic's gaze didn't move. "I can control who gets access to you." That sentence should have felt scary. Instead, it made her feel held, and that scared her more. Emma leaned back slightly, studying him. "So what's the plan?" Dominic's jaw tightened again. "Tonight I needed to be here, because tomorrow I have a meeting." Emma's pulse spiked. "With who?" Dominic paused. Then he said it. "My family." Emma went still, not because she was afraid of the word, because she could hear what it meant. A world with rules she didn't know. People who expected obedience. People who might not like change. Emma swallowed. "What kind of meeting?" Dominic kept his voice calm. "A formal one." Emma stared at him. "Are you telling me this because you want me to know, or because you want me to help you?" Dominic's gaze sharpened. "Both." Emma blinked. "Help you how?" Dominic turned toward her fully. His presence filled the couch warm and heavy. "By being real," he said. "By being here. By reminding me what I'm choosing." Emma's chest tightened. She whispered, "And what exactly are you choosing?" Dominic's eyes locked on hers. "You," he said. Emma's heart pounded so hard she felt dizzy. She stared at him, searching for any hint of manipulation. There was none, just certainty. Emma's voice softened. "Dominic." He lifted his hand, brushing her cheek gently, like he needed the contact to stay grounded. "I'm not asking you to join my world," he said. "I'm asking you to believe I can leave parts of it." Emma swallowed. "And if you can't?" Dominic's gaze stayed steady. "Then you walk away." Emma's eyes burned suddenly. She didn't want that option to exist. She hated that it had to. Emma took a shaky breath. "Okay," she whispered. "I believe you." Dominic's expression softened like she had loosened something tight in his chest. He leaned in slowly, giving her time. Emma closed the space first, kissing him. This kiss wasn't cautious. It was warm and hungry and real, built from days of restraint and late-night texts and the tension of knowing they were balancing on the edge of something serious. Dominic's hand slid to her waist, firm but gentle, pulling her closer like he couldn't help it anymore. Emma's fingers gripped his sweater. He tasted like tea and control and something deeper, something that made her body relax against him as if it recognized safety in him. When they pulled apart, Emma's breath came fast. Dominic's forehead rested against hers. "Emma," he murmured, voice low. "Tell me you're still sure." Emma swallowed, heart racing. "I'm still here." Dominic's gaze flicked to her mouth. "That's not the same." Emma met his eyes. "I'm sure enough to keep choosing you." Dominic exhaled, slow and heavy, like that was the answer he needed. He kissed her again, softer this time, then leaned back slightly. Emma blinked, trying to catch her breath. "So, tomorrow, you meet your family. And they'll ask why you're changing." Dominic nodded. Emma hesitated. "And what will you tell them?" Dominic's eyes stayed on hers. "That I'm done living only for duty." Emma's stomach fluttered. "And they'll accept that?" Dominic's mouth curved faintly. "They won't have a choice." Emma let out a small laugh, half nervous. "That's the most mafia boss thing you've said all week." Dominic's eyes warmed slightly. "I'm trying to be gentle with you." Emma touched his jaw lightly. "You are." Dominic went still at her touch, then leaned into it slightly like he couldn't help himself. Emma's voice softened. "Do you want me to come with you tomorrow?" Dominic's gaze sharpened. "No." Emma blinked, surprised. "No?" Dominic's tone stayed calm but firm. "Not yet. I won't bring you into that room until I'm certain you'll never feel trapped." Emma's chest tightened. "You think I'd feel trapped with you?" Dominic looked at her. "I think you'd feel trapped by what people would expect of you." Emma swallowed. He was right, and the fact that he cared about that more than what he wanted made her trust him even more. Dominic's phone buzzed once, face down on her coffee table. He didn't reach for it. Emma glanced at it. "Is that the meeting?" Dominic's jaw tightened slightly. "Yes." Emma's pulse picked up. "What did they say?" Dominic exhaled slowly. "They want me there earlier." Emma sat up straighter. "That's bad." Dominic's gaze held hers. "It means they're impatient." Emma's throat went dry. "Because you're distracted." Dominic nodded once. Emma took a breath. "Dominic, what's the worst that happens?" Dominic's eyes softened, but his voice stayed steady. "The worst is that they try to control the future I'm choosing." Emma swallowed. "And can they?" Dominic's gaze darkened slightly. "Not if I move first." Emma's pulse raced. "Move first how?" Dominic was quiet for a moment, like he was deciding whether to say it now. Then he looked at her, calm and intense. "I want you to stay with me," he said. Emma froze. "Stay with you, like tonight?" Dominic shook his head slightly. "No," he said. "I mean, for real." Emma's heart slammed against her ribs. "Move in." That was what he meant. She could hear it in his tone. Emma stared at him, mouth slightly open. Dominic's gaze stayed steady. "Not because I want to rush you. Because I want to protect what we're building." Emma's voice wavered. "Dominic, that's a lot." He finished for her. "I know." Emma's hands trembled slightly. She pressed them together in her lap. Her apartment suddenly felt too small for the weight of that question. Dominic reached out and took her hand gently. "You don't have to answer now," he said. "But I needed to say it." Emma swallowed hard. "Why now?" Dominic's gaze held hers. "Because tomorrow," he said quietly, "I may have to prove what you are to me." Emma's stomach dropped. "Prove?" she whispered. Dominic's voice stayed calm, but the tension in it was real. "I may have to say your name out loud in a room where people don't get to know you," he said. "And once I do that, it becomes real to them." Emma's heartbeat thundered. Dominic tightened his grip slightly, gentle but firm. "I won't do it without your consent," he added. "But I need to know if you're willing to step forward with me." Emma stared at him, mind racing. Move in. Be named. Be real in his world. She had wanted romance and intensity, but this was a different level of serious. Emma took a shaky breath. "Dominic, I care about you." Dominic's gaze softened. "I know." Emma's eyes burned. "And I want to be with you." Dominic's voice dropped. "Then let me build this right." Emma opened her mouth, then closed it, trying to find a sentence that didn't feel too small for what he was asking. Dominic watched her carefully, patient, steady. Emma finally whispered, "If I say yes, what changes?" Dominic's answer came without hesitation. "Everything," he said. Emma's chest tightened, not because it sounded scary, because it sounded like the truth. And as she sat there on her couch, hand in his, staring into the calm intensity of Dominic Russo's eyes, one question took over her entire mind. Was she ready to let everything change, starting tomorrow? Emma didn't answer him right away. She sat there on her couch, Dominic's hand warm in hers, her heart racing. Not with fear, but with the weight of a decision that felt too big to rush and too honest to ignore. "If I say yes," she repeated softly, "everything changes." Dominic didn't squeeze her hand. He didn't interrupt. He waited. "Yes," he said calmly, "but not all at once, and not without you." Emma studied his face, the steadiness, the restraint, the way he never tried to push her past her own pace. She had met men who promised the world. Dominic wasn't promising anything he hadn't already started doing. She took a breath. "I won't move in tomorrow." Dominic nodded immediately. "I wouldn't ask that." Emma continued, voice steadier now. "But I don't want to stand on the sidelines either. If you're going to say my name in that room, I don't want to hide." Dominic's gaze sharpened with something like relief. "You won't," she swallowed. "I want to be with you. I want to keep choosing you, just step by step." Dominic's shoulders eased, like a tension he'd been carrying finally loosened. "That's all I want," he said. "Step by step." Emma smiled faintly. "You're very intense for someone who claims to like peace." Dominic's mouth curved. "I'm learning." She leaned in and kissed him, slow, sure, full of intention. Not a promise of forever, but a promise of honesty. When they pulled back, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "I'll tell them I'm changing the structure. I'll tell them I'm stepping away from operations that don't align with where I'm going." Emma exhaled. "That sounds final." "It is," Dominic said. "For me." She searched his eyes. "And if they push back?" "They will," he said without hesitation. "But they'll adapt." Emma's brows lifted. "Because you're Dominic Russo," he smiled faintly. "Because I'm done negotiating my life." The phone buzzed again on the coffee table. Dominic glanced at it, then turned it face down without checking. Emma noticed. "You're really ignoring them." "Yes," he said. "Tonight is ours." Her chest warmed at that. The next morning, Emma woke early. She lay still for a moment, listening to the sounds of her building. Someone walking in the hallway, a door closing, the distant hum of traffic. Normal sounds. Her life, unchanged on the surface. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. "Dominic." "Good morning. I'm on my way to the meeting." Emma's heart skipped. "Emma, are you okay?" The reply came quickly. "Dominic, I will be, whatever happens." She smiled at the calm certainty in his words. "Emma, I'm thinking of you. There was a pause this time. Then, Dominic. That matters more than you know. Emma sat up, wrapped in her blanket, and whispered, "You've got this." To no one in particular, and meant it. The meeting lasted longer than Emma expected. She tried to distract herself. Work, coffee, reorganizing a drawer that didn't need reorganizing. But her mind kept drifting back to Dominic in a room full of people who had known him long before she did. People who expected the old version of him. Her phone finally buzzed just after noon. Dominic. "It's done." Her breath caught. Emma. "Done. How?" A moment passed. Dominic. "I said what I needed to say. I made it clear what I'm stepping away from, and I told them I'm building a different future." Emma swallowed. With me, she thought, even if he hadn't typed it. Emma. And? Another pause. Dominic. There was resistance, questions, warnings. Emma's stomach tightened. Dominic. But there was no negotiation. Her shoulders relaxed, relief flooding through her. Emma. I'm proud of you. This time the response took longer. When it came, it was simple. Dominic. I'd like to see you tonight, if you're free. Emma smiled. Emma. I'm free. That evening, Dominic didn't pick her up in a black SUV. He arrived in a simple car, parked like any other man visiting his girlfriend after work. When Emma opened the door, he looked lighter, still serious, still controlled. But something in his posture had shifted. You look different, she said, stepping aside to let him in. So do you, he replied, eyes softening as they took her in. They sat on her couch again, close, familiar now. Emma studied him. So? Dominic exhaled slowly. I'm officially stepping down from daily control of certain operations. I'll oversee legitimate businesses and advisory roles only. Emma blinked. That's big. Yes, he agreed. It also means fewer people watching me. Fewer reasons for concern. She smiled, and more room for a normal life. Dominic looked at her. A life with you. Her chest tightened. Emma reached for his hand. I never asked you to change everything. I know, he said. That's why it matters. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of the day settling. Then Dominic shifted slightly, turning toward her. There's something else, he said. Emma's pulse picked up. Okay. Dominic's gaze held hers. I told them about you. She inhaled sharply. And? I told them you're the reason I'm choosing differently, he said, and that you're not to be approached, questioned, or involved. Emma stared at him. You protected me. Yes, Dominic said simply, publicly. Her throat tightened. That must have caused reactions. It did, he said, but none I can't handle. Emma swallowed. Dominic. He lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles gently. I won't build a future that puts you in danger. She laughed softly, emotion thick in her voice. You're very convincing. Dominic's mouth curved. I'm very serious. Emma leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. For the first time since this all started, she felt something close to peace. Weeks passed. Life didn't turn into a fairy tale overnight. But it settled. Dominic showed up, consistently, quietly, fully. He learned Emma's routines, her favorite takeout, the way she needed silence after long days. He helped her assemble a shelf without taking over, listened when she vented about work, actually laughed at Maya's ridiculous jokes. Chloe watched it all with narrowed eyes and a satisfied smile. I don't trust easily, Chloe told Emma one night, but he treats you like something precious, not fragile. Emma smiled. That's exactly how it feels. Slowly, naturally, Dominic started spending more nights at Emma's place. Not because he demanded it, because it felt right. One evening, as they cooked dinner together, Dominic chopping vegetables with focused precision, Emma leaned against the counter and said casually, You know, you don't have to keep an apartment you barely use. Dominic glanced at her. Are you suggesting something? Emma shrugged. trying to sound calm even as her heart raced. "I'm just saying, you're already here a lot." Dominic studied her carefully. "Emma." She met his gaze. "Yes? I won't move a single thing into your space unless you ask me to," he said. Emma smiled softly. "Then I'm asking." His expression shifted, surprised, warm, deeply moved. "Okay," he said quietly. The day Dominic officially moved in wasn't dramatic. No boxes labeled mafia stuff. Just clothes, books. A coffee machine he insisted was better than hers. They rearranged the apartment together, laughing when things didn't fit, compromising on shelf space. That night, lying in bed beside him, Emma turned her head and studied his profile in the soft light. "You know," she said, "this all started because my friends dared me to kiss a stranger." Dominic's mouth curved. "I've been thinking about that." Emma smiled. "Anything to say about it?" He turned toward her, eyes warm, steady, no longer guarded. "Yes," he said. "I'm very glad you didn't listen to reason." She laughed, resting her hand on his chest. "Me too." Months later, on a quiet evening, Dominic came home with a calm smile and a small velvet box. Emma looked up from the couch. "What's that?" Dominic sat beside her, took her hand, and didn't kneel. He didn't need to. "Emma Collins," he said, voice low and certain. "You changed the direction of my life without asking me to be someone I'm not. You gave me peace without demanding I earn it." Her breath caught. "I don't want a future that doesn't include you," he continued. "Will you keep choosing me, for the rest of it?" Tears filled Emma's eyes. She laughed softly through them. "Yes," she said. "Obviously, yes." Dominic slid the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into his arms, holding her like the world had finally aligned. Later, as they stood by the window looking out at the city lights, Emma rested her head against his chest. "Do you ever think about that night at the bar?" she asked. Dominic kissed her hair. "Every day." Emma smiled. "One reckless dare." Dominic's voice was calm, certain, full of warmth. "The best decision of my life." And for the first time, Emma knew, without doubt, that love hadn't pulled Dominic Russo into darkness. It had finally led him home,